My name is Marielle, and if you had asked me a year ago what forever looked like, I would have said his name. Ethan. He was the man who promised me the world, who kissed my forehead when I doubted myself, who told me every single day that I was the one. For 5 years, I believed him. For 5 years, I poured every piece of myself into a future that I thought belonged to us. But the truth is, he never planned forever with me. The truth is, he carried my love in one hand and my ring in the other. And he gave it away. Not to me. But to someone else. I didn't find out in whispers. I didn't stumble across a rumor. I discovered it with my own eyes, standing at the back of a glittering ballroom while the man I trusted dropped to one knee in front of her, holding the very diamond I once thought was mine. And here's the cruelest part, she wasn't just anyone. She was someone who knew me. Someone who smiled at my table, ate my food, and pretended to call me a friend. He thought I wouldn't see it. He thought I would stay silent. He thought the humiliation would bury me. But humiliation doesn't bury me. It fuels me. That night, as applause rang out and she said yes to the future that had once been mine, I felt something ignite inside me. I wasn't going to cry quietly. I wasn't going to hide in the shadows. I wasn't going to let him take my ring, my trust, and my dignity. No. I was going to take the stage. I was going to take back the spotlight he thought belonged to him. And when I stepped forward, when my voice cut through the music, when I ripped the mask off his carefully crafted lie, the room would not remember his proposal. They would remember my revenge. Because you don't steal a woman's future and expect her to stay silent. And I was just getting started. The night it all shattered was supposed to be ordinary. Ethan had told me he was working late. Those words, sharp and casual, had become a constant refrain in our lives. He said them with a weary smile, as if I should be proud of his ambition, his dedication, his endless grind. And I believed him, because I wanted to. Because love makes you blind until the light burns through the lie. That night, my colleague Serena invited me to a charity gala. She had an extra ticket and she begged me to come. At first, I hesitated. I didn't feel like dressing up, didn't feel like smiling at strangers while pretending everything was fine. But something inside me whispered, go. The ballroom glittered like a dream. Crystal chandeliers spilled golden light over tables draped in silk. Laughter and music twined together, creating a kind of magic that belonged to the wealthy and the confident. I smoothed my dress nervously, reminding myself I belonged too. Then, across the room, I saw him. Ethan. Not in a suit wrinkled from hours of overtime. Not with tired eyes and a coffee stain on his sleeve. No. He was radiant. Polished. The Ethan I remembered from our earliest days, when he tried to impress me. He wasn't alone. She stood beside him, her hand brushing his arm as though it belonged to her. She was stunning in emerald silk, her smile wide and rehearsed. But what froze me wasn't her beauty. It was the way Ethan looked at her. Like I had never existed. Like every kiss, every promise, every whispered forever had been rehearsal for this moment. I stayed still, rooted to the floor, while the MC tapped the microphone and called for silence. My stomach churned, and my glass of champagne trembled in my hand. Ethan stepped forward, every eye in the room fixed on him. His voice carried through the speakers, smooth, confident, a man ready to declare something unforgettable. Tonight is special, he said. Tonight I want to honor someone who has changed my life. The woman in emerald blushed, as though she hadn't known what was coming. But I saw it in her eyes. She knew. She had known all along. Ethan reached into his pocket. My breath caught, because I recognized the velvet box. I had seen it months ago, hidden at the back of his dresser. I thought he was waiting for the right moment to give it to me. I thought it was mine. He knelt. The air cracked. He opened the box, and there it was. My ring. The one I had dreamed about, the one I had pictured on my hand for years. Only it wasn't being offered to me. "Will you marry me?" Ethan asked. The room erupted into applause, into gasps of delight. Phones lifted, capturing the glitter of the diamond, the tears in her eyes. She whispered, "Yes," and the crowd surged with cheers. But in that moment, it wasn't joy that filled me. It was fire. Because betrayal has a sound. It isn't just silence or whispers. It's thunder in your chest when the truth strikes. I forced myself to keep standing, even as the walls seemed to tilt. My champagne glass clinked as I set it down, carefully, deliberately. My heart screamed, but my face stayed calm. I wasn't going to collapse. I wasn't going to run. I was going to remember every detail. The emerald dress. The diamond that belonged to me. The smirk Ethan tried to hide when he thought no one else noticed. I was going to carve this night into my memory, because someday soon, it would matter. And as the applause rang out, my lips curled, not into a smile, but into something sharper. If Ethan thought this was his night, he was wrong. Because I was already planning how to make it mine. The gala ended, but the image of Ethan on one knee did not. It followed me like a ghost. On the cab ride home, the city lights blurred into streaks, but all I could see was her hand sliding into his, my ring glinting under the chandeliers. I didn't cry that night. The tears would have been too merciful, too soft. Instead, I lay awake, my mind a storm. Questions clawed at me. How long had this been going on? Who was she? How many times had he lied, smiling as he kissed my forehead, whispering that he was working late? By dawn, the fire inside me had hardened into something sharp. I needed answers. Not guesses. Not feelings. Proof. The first step was his phone. Ethan had always been protective of it, but I had never questioned why. Love makes excuses for red flags. But now, excuses were useless. I waited until he showered the next morning. His phone sat charging on the nightstand, glowing with notifications. My hands shook, but not with guilt. With rage. I scrolled. Messages flooded the screen. Her name was Cassandra. She had a contact photo, a selfie in that same emerald dress. The gall of it almost made me laugh. Their messages were shameless. Dinner dates I hadn't known about. Hotels I had driven past 100 times. Thank you for the flowers, baby. My flowers. Bought with my money. Can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore. Each word was a blade. But instead of breaking me, they sharpened me. I screenshotted everything. Then I sent the files to my email, labeling them with cold precision. Evidence. Over the next week, I became someone else. Someone quiet, watchful. I tracked Ethan's lies like clockwork. If he said late meeting, I checked his location through our shared phone plan. If he said drinks with the guys, I noted the bar receipts that didn't match. I began keeping a journal. Dates, times, lies, proof. Every page was a piece of the trap I was building. The hardest part wasn't seeing his betrayal, it was pretending not to. Each morning, I made him coffee. Each night, I kissed his cheek. My smile never cracked. Because if I showed my hand too soon, I'd lose. But secrets are heavy, and one night, Ethan slipped. He came home smelling faintly of perfume, not mine, not his mother's lavender soap that sometimes lingered on gifts. No, this was Cassandra's scent, floral and bold. I tilted my head and asked, "Long day?" He blinked, startled, then nodded too quickly. Yeah. Meetings ran late. Of course, I said, my smile sweet but my pen already writing another note in my mind. Perfume, Wednesday, 11 p.m. The more I gathered, the colder I became. And then came the bank account. Ethan and I shared finances, or at least, we were supposed to. One evening, I logged in to pay bills and saw a transfer missing. Not small. Thousands. Gone. My stomach twisted as I followed the trail. A boutique hotel downtown. A jewelry store receipt. Restaurants where wine alone cost more than a week's groceries. It wasn't just betrayal of the heart. It was betrayal of survival. I printed every transaction, slipping the papers into a file I hid under the loose floorboard in my closet. Proof was stacking higher than love ever had. Still, I needed one more thing. One undeniable moment that no one, not Ethan, not Cassandra, not his smooth lies, could erase. That moment came sooner than I expected. One Thursday evening, Ethan claimed he was driving to a last-minute client dinner. I nodded, kissed his cheek, and waited until the door shut. Then I grabbed my coat and keys. My heart thundered, not from fear, but from hunger, the hunger for truth. I followed his car through downtown traffic, my headlights distant but steady. He turned into a familiar street, one lined with cozy cafes and upscale apartments. I parked a block away, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. Ethan stepped out, checked his reflection in the car window, and smiled. Not the tired smile he saved for me. This one was brighter, freer. For her. Cassandra appeared from the shadows of a wine bar, her laughter carrying through the night. She threw her arms around him, and he kissed her, deep, shameless, right there under the street lamp. And then they walked inside, hand in hand. I snapped the photo. The click of my phone camera was soft, but in my mind, it roared. That picture was everything. It was the lie, frozen in time. The mask ripped off his face. I leaned back in my seat, adrenaline flooding my veins. My hands were trembling, yes, but not from weakness. From power. Because now I had it. The final piece. And Ethan had no idea his perfect little secret was about to become his greatest mistake. The photo of Ethan and Cassandra glowed on my phone screen like a weapon waiting to be unleashed. Proof was mine. But proof alone doesn't topple liars. It needed a stage. It needed an audience. I knew I couldn't carry this war alone. Not because I was weak, but because revenge this sharp requires precision, and precision requires allies. The first person I thought of was Naomi, my closest friend since college. She had been there through heartbreaks, moves, and job changes. The one person who never judged me for my mistakes. She hated Ethan in the quiet, polite way you hate someone your friend insists on loving. When I called, she answered on the first ring. Something's wrong, she said immediately. I exhaled. I need you to see something. Minutes later, Naomi was on my couch, wine glass in hand, her eyes widening as I laid out the evidence. The texts. The receipts. And finally, the photo, the kiss under the street lamp. Her jaw clenched. That, she stopped herself, set her glass down, and leaned closer. Lyra, this is bigger than cheating. He's bleeding you dry. I know, I whispered. My voice didn't shake. I had passed beyond hurt. Now there was only focus. Naomi studied me, her brow furrowing. What are you planning? I didn't answer right away. Because part of me didn't know yet. But another part of me, the sharper part, was already sketching out lines of a plan. I'm not leaving quietly, I said finally. Naomi smirked, that dangerous kind of smirk that only true friends share. Good. Tell me what you need. The second ally was unexpected, my sister, Clara. She and I had grown distant in recent years, tangled in sibling rivalry and mismatched choices. But blood ties run deep, and when I told her everything, she shocked me. She didn't judge. She didn't hesitate. You're not doing this alone, she said, her voice steady. If he thought he could humiliate you in public, then public is where he'll pay. Hearing her say it, my sister, the one who had once rolled her eyes at every decision I made, sparked something inside me. I wasn't just reclaiming my dignity. I was rewriting the narrative of my life. Together, the three of us began to strategize. Naomi handled the digital side, archiving messages, compiling a timeline of his lies, organizing every receipt and screenshot into a file that could survive any denial. Clara, with her connections in event planning, gave me access to something priceless, the guest list for Ethan's upcoming corporate gala. The very same type of glittering stage where he loved to parade his perfect life. He's scheduled to give a speech, Clara told me, scrolling through the event notes. All eyes on him. That's your opening. The image formed in my mind like a scene from a movie. Ethan standing under the lights, his practiced smile glowing, his lies polished smooth. And me, holding the truth sharp enough to cut him open in front of everyone who mattered to him. It wasn't just revenge. It was justice. But even the best plans can crumble without preparation. I spent nights rehearsing what I might say. Days gathering backups of the evidence in case he tried to erase it. Naomi even printed copies, sealed them in envelopes, ready to be placed in the hands of the people Ethan least wanted to see them, his boss, his parents, even Cassandra's family if necessary. The more we planned, the calmer I became. Each step was another brick in the fortress I was building. And yet, underneath it all, a question lingered: would I have the strength to actually do it? To stand in that room, face him, and rip apart the illusion he had crafted so carefully? I told myself I would. I told myself there was no other choice. Then came the call that nearly shifted everything. It was Ethan. Late at night, his voice smooth as always. Lyra, there's a big event next week. I want you there. By my side. I almost laughed at the irony. He wanted me, the woman he had drained, lied to, betrayed, to smile at his arm while Cassandra remained hidden. The hypocrisy was staggering. But I didn't laugh. I simply said, of course, Ethan. I'll be there. When I hung up, Naomi and Clara exchanged glances. Naomi grinned wickedly. Then it's settled. His stage will be his downfall. I leaned back, the weight of the decision settling over me. The pieces were in place. The trap was ready. But part of me knew, plans rarely unfold without complication. And life has a cruel way of twisting even the sharpest revenge into a dangerous gamble. I thought I was ready for anything. I was wrong. Because the complication was already moving toward me, quiet as a shadow. The morning after Ethan's call, I sat at the kitchen table with Naomi and Clara. Coffee cups lined the surface like weapons. The air pulsed with quiet determination. We weren't just planning revenge anymore, we were engineering an event. Naomi slid her laptop around to face me. Here's the compiled file. Every message. Every receipt. Every date he spent money that should have gone to your future together. On the screen was a neat timeline stretching back months. Ethan's words glared in black and white, excuses about working late, transactions for flowers, jewelry, and hotel stays, all with Cassandra's name somewhere close. I scrolled slowly, the anger inside me sharpened into clarity. This is airtight, I said. Naomi's lips curled. Exactly. He can't lie his way out when the evidence speaks louder than he does. Clara leaned in, tapping the guest list she had printed. This gala isn't small. We're talking executives, investors, and families. His entire world will be in that room. The fallout from this could destroy him completely. I stared at the list. Names that carried weight in Ethan's career. People he idolized. People who saw him as untouchable. They were the audience he had carefully cultivated. They would also be the witnesses to his undoing. That image gave me strength. But revenge requires more than imagination, it requires execution. I'm not just exposing him, I said, my voice firm. I'm taking back my narrative. He mocked me. He drained me. He thought I would stay silent. Not anymore. Naomi raised her glass of cold coffee. Then let's map this step by step. And so we did. Step 1, secure the evidence. Naomi created multiple backups, encrypted drives, cloud storage, even printed copies sealed in envelopes. If Ethan tried to erase anything, it would already be too late. Step 2, establish timing. Clara confirmed Ethan's speech was scheduled for the middle of the gala, right before dinner was served. That was the perfect moment, attention high, distractions low. Step 3, decide delivery. This was the hardest. Did I walk up to the microphone and speak? Did I hand out the evidence to his colleagues? Did I play a slideshow of his messages and watch the room crumble around him? The options swirled in my mind. Each one intoxicating. Each one dangerous. Naomi, ever the strategist, leaned forward. Direct confrontation is risky. He'll try to twist it. You need something undeniable. Something the room can't unsee. Clara smirked. Like reading his own words aloud. The idea planted itself like a seed. Ethan had always prided himself on controlling the story. But what if his own words became the knife that gutted his reputation? I closed my eyes, imagining it, the silence of the crowd, my voice steady, his lies echoing off the marble walls of the ballroom. His face turning pale as the mask shattered. Yes. That was the path. Step 4, prepare the stage. Clara promised access to the audio system. Naomi promised printed handouts, ready to be slipped into the hands of the most powerful guests. No matter how he tried to spin it, his words would already be out. The plan was elegant, brutal, and clean. But revenge has a heartbeat. It races faster as the day approaches. And mine was pounding now, harder than ever. Naomi noticed. Are you scared? She asked gently. Yes, I admitted. But fear doesn't stop me. Fear just tells me I'm walking into something that matters. That night, I rehearsed in front of the mirror. Over and over, I read Ethan's messages aloud. Practicing not to tremble, not to falter, not to sound broken. I didn't want pity. I wanted power. I looked at my reflection, the woman who had once shrunk herself to fit Ethan's shadow, and barely recognized her. My shoulders were squared. My voice steady. My eyes sharp. I was no longer the victim. I was the executioner of truth. Days passed quickly. Each one filled with preparation. I barely slept. I barely ate. But I never wavered. Every step pulled me closer to the moment I would take back control. And then, just 2 nights before the gala, I received a message that cracked the edges of my certainty. It was from Cassandra. The subject line, "You don't know everything." I stared at it, pulse hammering, before opening it. Her words were short, precise, almost surgical. If you plan to expose Ethan, you should know he's not just lying to you. He's lying to me, too. And I can prove it. The screen blurred as my mind raced. Cassandra, the woman who had taken him from me, was reaching out. Not with cruelty, but with ammunition. Was this a trap? Or was she another victim of Ethan's endless deception? Naomi's voice echoed in my memory, revenge requires precision. Maybe Cassandra wasn't the enemy. Maybe she was the missing piece. And suddenly, the plan we had built, airtight, unshakable, shifted under my feet. Because if Cassandra joined me, the revenge would not just cut Ethan down. It would bury him. The morning of the gala arrived like a storm I had been waiting for, yet still feared. I had every piece in place, backups of Ethan's messages, the speech ready in my head, the evidence tucked into envelopes. And then there was Cassandra's email, a crack in the foundation I thought was solid. I hadn't responded at first. Why would I? She was the woman who had stolen him from me. But her words gnawed at me all night. He's not just lying to you. He's lying to me, too. By sunrise, exhaustion and curiosity broke me. I typed back a single sentence: "If you have proof, meet me today." 1 hour before the gala. Public cafe. No tricks. I didn't expect her to show. But she did. When Cassandra walked in, I almost didn't recognize her. No polished perfection. No smugness. She looked hollow. Her makeup was minimal, her hair pulled back like she had forgotten to care. She sat across from me without ceremony, sliding a folder across the table. "I thought he loved me," she whispered. I opened the folder. Bank transfers. Hotel receipts. More messages, but not to me, not to her. To another woman. And another. Ethan's duplicity sprawled across the pages like a disease with no end. Cassandra's jaw trembled. "He told me you were bitter. That you were unstable. That you'd ruin his career if he didn't leave you. But then I saw this." She gestured to the papers. "He wasn't just betraying you. He was betraying me. And everyone else." I leaned back, letting the weight of it settle. My anger wasn't just justified, it was multiplied. "So why tell me now?" I asked. Her eyes lifted, dark with something I couldn't quite read. "Because I want him to lose everything. And I can't do it alone." The irony was sharp. The woman who had been my enemy now wanted to be my ally. Naomi's warning buzzed in my mind: precision. Trust carefully. Still, Cassandra's evidence wasn't just useful, it was devastating. If Ethan had more mistresses, his lies weren't cracks, they were craters. This wasn't only a betrayal. It was a pattern. A double life multiplied into a triple one. I closed the folder slowly. "If you want to help, then help. But understand this, tonight is not about you and me making peace. Tonight is about ending him." Her lips curved into something brittle but sincere. "Agreed." We parted ways with a new, uneasy alliance. By late afternoon, the tension clung to me like a second skin. I dressed carefully, a sleek black dress, no frills, no distractions. Not the woman Ethan used to dismiss as too emotional. Not the partner he underestimated. This was armor. Naomi texted updates from the ballroom. Audio system secure. Copies distributed to key seats. Clara added, timing still perfect. Dinner service delayed 20 minutes, gives you more room. Everything clicked into place. And yet, the unease from Cassandra's involvement lingered. Would she stand with me? Or would she turn the tables? I arrived at the venue early, standing in the shadows of the grand marble staircase as guests trickled in. Ethan's laugh echoed from somewhere deeper inside. He sounded confident. Invincible. I gripped the folder Cassandra had given me, pressing it against my ribs like a secret weapon. I almost felt pity for him. Almost. The ballroom glowed with chandeliers and polished glass. Music played soft and sweet. Waiters carried trays of champagne. The air was charged, not just with celebration, but with expectation. Everyone was waiting for Ethan's big speech. And then I saw her. Cassandra. Dressed in a deep emerald gown, her posture stiff but her expression unreadable. Our eyes locked across the room. She gave me the smallest nod. Naomi slipped past me, whispering, "Are you sure about this?" I forced a smile. Not at all. But that's what makes it worth it. The night pressed forward, each second carrying me closer to the moment of truth. Ethan worked the crowd, shaking hands, dazzling with charm. He looked like the man I had once believed in. The man I had once planned a life with. But now, every laugh he shared, every compliment he received, every handshake he offered, it all felt like the last performance of an actor who didn't know the curtain was about to fall. Dinner service began. Glasses clinked. Laughter filled the air. Then the announcer's voice cut through. Please welcome our honored speaker, Ethan Hayes. Applause roared. Ethan strode to the stage, shoulders broad, smile confident. He adjusted the microphone, waiting for silence. I felt my pulse climb, my breath shallow. Naomi caught my eye from the edge of the room. Clara nodded from the tech booth. Cassandra's gaze was locked on me. This was it. Ethan began, voice smooth as velvet. Tonight isn't just about achievement. It's about truth. About loyalty. About the relationships that make us who we are. The hypocrisy was acid in my throat. And then, as if fate itself wanted to complicate the plan, Cassandra stood up. Her chair scraped loudly against the marble floor. Heads turned. Murmurs spread. She wasn't supposed to move. Not yet. I froze, my plan balanced on the edge of her next words. Cassandra lifted her glass, her voice cutting through the silence. Ethan, why don't you tell them about the women who aren't here tonight? The ballroom gasped. Ethan blinked, his confidence cracking. And I realized, the pivot had arrived. Cassandra wasn't waiting for me. She was starting the fire herself. The room froze. Forks clattered against porcelain. Glasses trembled in midair. Cassandra's words sliced through the ballroom like a blade. Why don't you tell them about the women who aren't here tonight? Ethan's jaw twitched, but he forced a laugh, thin and unsteady. I'm not sure what this is, Cassandra. Perhaps too much champagne. No. Her voice rose, sharp and clear. Not champagne. Not confusion. Lies. Gasps rippled through the audience. Whispers bloomed like wildfire. My chest pounded. This wasn't the script. She had detonated the charge too soon. But the explosion had already begun, and I wasn't about to let it burn out before the truth was revealed. I rose from my chair. The scrape of it echoed across the floor. Slowly, deliberately, I stepped forward. All eyes turned toward me. Actually, I said, my voice steady, Cassandra is right. The murmurs swelled into a roar. Ethan's eyes widened, panic flashing in their depths. I mounted the stage beside him, every step a reclamation of power. He reached for my arm, whispering harshly, sit down, Lena. You're making a fool of yourself. I jerked away, fire in my veins. No, Ethan. You made a fool of me. 4 months. 4 years. And tonight, everyone gets to see it. I turned to the audience, holding their attention like I had rehearsed 1,000 times. My voice carried, calm but fierce. This man standing here promised me forever. He told me I was the only one. He mocked my doubts, called me paranoid, said I was too emotional. But I was not emotional. I was right. Naomi nodded from the corner, giving the signal. Clara pressed a button. Screens lit up along the ballroom walls, flashing messages Ethan had sent. His words filled the silence. Can't wait to get out of the house tonight. She's so boring. Don't worry, she'll never find out. Gasps. Murmurs. A few outright shouts. Ethan lunged for the microphone. These are taken out of context. I stepped between him and the crowd, lifting my own phone high. Out of context? Then why don't you explain this? I tapped the screen, and his voice poured through the speakers. A recording, crystal clear. Ethan's laugh, smug and cruel. I've got Lena right where I want her. She'll never leave me, she's too dependent. I can do what I want. The ballroom erupted. Chairs scraped back. Guests whispered furiously. Someone shouted, "What the hell, Ethan?" He paled, sweat breaking along his brow. His confident mask slipped, replaced by raw fear. And that's not all, I said, lifting the folder Cassandra had given me. I opened it with deliberate care. Multiple women. Multiple promises. Bank transfers. Hotel rooms. He didn't just betray me. He betrayed her. And her. And her. I scattered copies across the stage. Papers fluttered like ash. Guests near the front grabbed them, eyes widening as they read. The evidence spread faster than any denial Ethan could form. Lies built on lies, I said, my voice cutting through the storm. And tonight, the lies end. Ethan staggered forward, grabbing the microphone. His voice cracked, desperation dripping from every word. This is an ambush. This is slander. You're ruining me. No, Ethan. I leaned close enough for only him to hear, but the microphone caught it anyway. You ruined yourself. I'm just holding up the mirror. The crowd gasped again. Whispers sharpened into condemnation. Faces turned away from him. Colleagues muttered. A board member shook his head, disgust clear on his face. Cassandra stepped forward from the audience, her emerald gown glinting beneath the chandeliers. She lifted her glass again. To the truth, she said coldly. Several guests raised their glasses in silent agreement. Others simply stared, the betrayal unfolding before them in real time. Ethan's face contorted rage, fear, shame. He opened his mouth to shout, but the sound died beneath the weight of silence. He was exposed. Completely. The man who thought he controlled every room was now cornered in one, stripped bare before the very people he sought to impress. I stepped back from the microphone, letting the silence sink in, letting the truth hang in the air like smoke after fire. This, I said quietly but firmly, is the man who mocked my loyalty. This is the man who gambled with love like it was nothing. Tonight, he loses the game. The ballroom erupted, not with applause, but with murmurs of disgust, shouts of betrayal, and the unmistakable sound of a reputation collapsing. I dropped the microphone onto the stage. It clattered, echoing like a gavel. And as I turned to leave, Ethan's broken voice followed me, Lena, please. Don't do this. But I didn't look back. Because the truth was already done. The room did not just react, it combusted. Voices rose like a storm. Chairs screeched against marble as people stood, shouting over one another. Some gasped in horror, others whispered like serpents. The hum of music that had filled the ballroom all evening had been replaced by raw, human chaos. Ethan's carefully crafted mask had shattered. He stood in the center of it all, sweat streaking his temples, his mouth opening and closing like a man drowning. Lena, he shouted after me, voice trembling with panic. Stop. You're destroying me. I turned slowly, the spotlight still catching on the folder of evidence in my hands. The hush came not from mercy, but from curiosity. Everyone wanted to hear what would come next. You destroyed yourself, I said calmly, each word clear enough to cut glass. The ripple of agreement was instant. A colleague near the front crossed his arms and muttered, unbelievable. Another, louder now, said, he had us fooled. Ethan's boss, an older man in a navy suit, stood with his arms behind his back, face carved from stone. This, he said in a voice that silenced the room, is unacceptable. Ethan staggered toward him, desperation dripping from every syllable. You have to believe me. It's all taken out of context. I can explain. But the boss didn't budge. His expression darkened. You don't explain your way out of recordings. Or bank transfers. The words landed like stones. Gasps echoed. Ethan flinched as though struck. Across the room, Cassandra raised her glass again, this time not in a toast but in mockery. Quite the performance, Ethan. Pity it wasn't the kind you rehearsed. Laughter, sharp, cold, rippled from a cluster of guests. Ethan spun toward her, fury boiling in his eyes. You planned this with her, didn't you? You set me up. Cassandra smirked, her green eyes glinting. You set yourself up the moment you thought you could play both sides and win. The crowd hissed with agreement. Ethan's head whipped back toward me, his expression a grotesque mask of anger and pleading. Lena, please. You loved me once. Don't do this. Don't ruin me. The plea clawed at me, but it broke against the wall I had built long ago. You're wrong, Ethan, I said quietly, letting the silence carry the weight of it. You ruined us. And tonight, I am simply making sure everyone sees what I've seen for years. The audience leaned in, drinking every word. His colleagues shook their heads. Friends whispered furiously. And then came the most crushing blow of all. From the back of the room, his mother stepped forward. Her voice wavered, heavy with disbelief. Ethan, tell me this isn't true. For a heartbeat, I thought he might lie again. His lips trembled, his jaw flexed, but nothing came out. The silence was worse than a denial. Her hand flew to her mouth. Tears welled. And then, with a strength I hadn't expected, she whispered, I don't know who you are anymore. The crowd gasped. Ethan's shoulders caved. I felt the shift, the final stone tumbling from the fragile wall he had built around his reputation. Without his mother's defense, without his boss's protection, he was alone. Then someone shouted from the side, get him out of here. The words ignited the crowd. Murmurs swelled into condemnation. Ethan turned in circles, pleading with faces that would no longer meet his. His hands shook as he reached for the microphone, but the weight of disgust forced him back. I stepped forward one last time, my voice calm but unyielding. This was never about humiliating you, Ethan. It was about showing the truth. And the truth is, you were never the man you pretended to be. The room erupted again. Applause, murmurs, accusations. A storm of judgment crashing down on the man who once thought himself untouchable. Ethan stumbled toward me, broken. Lena, please, we can fix this. I stepped back, shaking my head. No, Ethan. You can't fix a lie that never should have been told. The silence that followed was not empty, it was full. Full of judgment, full of realization, full of finality. And then, slowly, I turned and walked off the stage. Behind me, Ethan crumbled, shouting half-formed words drowned beneath the roar of the crowd. His empire had fallen. His lies had burned. But my revenge had only just begun. The morning after felt like waking up in a different world. The sunlight spilled through my curtains as if nothing had changed, but everything had. My phone buzzed non-stop on the nightstand. Missed calls. Voicemails. Texts. Notifications stacked like bricks, impossible to ignore. I reached for the phone, but I did not open Ethan's messages. I already knew what they would say, pleas, excuses, desperate attempts to rewrite the truth. Instead, I opened the news. There he was. Ethan Montgomery, his photograph plastered on the front page of the local business section. Only the headline was not the kind he used to dream about. Prominent executive exposed in public scandal at charity gala. I read the article slowly, savoring every word. The journalist had picked up the story from someone at the party. They described my reveal as stunning and unprecedented. They wrote about the recordings, the transactions, the stunned reaction of Ethan's colleagues. His lies were no longer whispers, they were headlines. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a voicemail notification from Cassandra. I pressed play. Her voice was steady, almost amused. Well, Lena, you've done what no one else could. He is finished. His resignation letter hit his boss's desk at 8 this morning. You didn't just take him down, you erased the man he pretended to be. Call me later. Drinks on me. I smiled, a small one, but it stayed on my lips longer than I expected. Scrolling further, I found a string of text messages from people I barely knew, acquaintances from years past, colleagues I had lost touch with. I always suspected something was off about him. I can't believe you were strong enough to do that. Proud of you. But then came the message that made me pause. It was from Ethan's mother. I don't know how to reconcile what I saw last night. But I need you to know, you were brave. You deserved better than him. And I am sorry I never saw it sooner. Tears pricked my eyes. Not because her words healed everything, they didn't. But because it was the first acknowledgement, the first crack in the silence that had let Ethan thrive for so long. By noon, the avalanche had gathered speed. Social media exploded with commentary. Hashtags with his name trended locally. Clips from the gala spread like wildfire. People dissected every gesture, every word I had spoken. Some turned it into gossip. Others turned it into inspiration. He deserved it, one comment read. Finally, someone standing up to liars like him. But the real proof of my revenge came through an email. From his company's HR department. Dear Ms. Hale, we want to extend our apologies for what you endured. We want to assure you that we are taking immediate action. Ethan Montgomery has been placed on indefinite suspension pending termination. If you are willing, we'd like to speak with you about compliance improvements moving forward. I let out a laugh, short, sharp, disbelieving. The man who once mocked me, controlled me, and drained me of every ounce of peace, now suspended, begging for scraps of dignity. And then, like fate itself, my phone rang. Ethan. Again. This time, I answered. His voice was frantic, frayed at the edges. Lena, please. You've got to help me. They're firing me. The press, my name, it's everywhere. You have to fix this. You have to tell them it's not what it looks like. I closed my eyes, let him rant. His desperation filled the silence I once feared. When he paused, breathless, I finally spoke. I don't have to do anything, Ethan. For once, the truth is louder than your lies. And you'll have to live with that. His voice cracked. You think you've won? You think this makes you better than me? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. No, Ethan. I don't think I'm better. I just know I'm free. And then I hung up. For the first time in years, my hands didn't shake after ending a call with him. The silence that followed wasn't heavy, it was clean. That evening, Cassandra kept her promise. We met at a small rooftop bar, city lights glimmering below us. She raised her glass toward me. To the truth, she said. I clinked mine against hers. And to never letting men like him win again. The night air wrapped around me, cool and full of possibility. But even as I smiled, I knew the story wasn't fully over. Ethan was desperate, cornered, and men like him rarely disappeared quietly. The real test wasn't whether I had exposed him, it was whether I was ready for what he might try next. And as the night deepened, I realized something else. I wasn't afraid anymore. The days turned into weeks, and the noise around Ethan faded from a roar to a distant hum. His name still surfaced in conversations, whispered in boardrooms, dissected online, but it no longer had the shine of power. Instead, it carried the weight of disgrace. Ethan Montgomery, once synonymous with ambition, was now a warning, a cautionary tale. I watched from the sidelines, not as his victim anymore, but as the woman who had finally broken free. In the weeks after the gala, I moved out of our apartment. I left behind the walls that once heard my silence, the kitchen where he mocked me, the bed where he plotted his betrayals. I packed only what was mine and walked away from everything that reminded me of him. I rented a small, bright loft across town. The windows were tall, the air smelled new, and the space felt like possibility itself. I painted one wall deep crimson, a reminder of my strength, my fire, my refusal to fade into the background again. Ethan tried, of course. He sent letters. He called from unknown numbers. He begged through mutual acquaintances. Let me explain, he said. I can fix this, he said. But the truth was simple, there was no fixing what he had broken. The court filings began shortly after. Divorce papers, signed and delivered. Financial settlements, handled by my lawyer. I was methodical, deliberate. For once, I wasn't the woman reacting to his games. I was the one writing the rules. And when the gavel came down, when the legal separation was finalized, I walked out of that courthouse lighter than I had ever been. People sometimes ask me, was it worth it? The risk, the confrontation, the spectacle of that night? Here is my answer: it wasn't just worth it. It was necessary. For too long, I let Ethan decide who I was. I was the quiet one. The supportive one. The one who should be grateful. He painted me into a corner and told me to stay there. But the truth? I was never meant to live in corners. The night of the gala, I didn't just expose Ethan. I reclaimed myself. My voice. My dignity. My future. And here is the most important part: the revenge wasn't about destroying him. It was about ending the version of me that allowed him to thrive. Now, when I wake up in my crimson-walled loft, I no longer dread the day. I no longer shrink under the weight of someone else's lies. I drink my coffee slowly, savoring the silence, knowing it is mine. I look in the mirror and see a woman who fought back, not with fists or fury, but with truth. And the truth was enough. To anyone listening now, maybe you've been silenced, mocked, overlooked. Maybe someone in your life has convinced you that you're less than you are. I want you to hear this clearly. You are not less. You never were. And if someone dares to build their world on your pain, you have the right, the power, to take it back. That's what revenge truly is. Not chaos. Not cruelty. But justice. The quiet, undeniable act of reclaiming what was always yours. So tonight, as this story closes, I leave you with one question. What would happen if you stopped living in the corner of someone else's life and stepped fully into your own? Think about it. And if my story lit even the smallest spark in you, share it, subscribe, and stay with me for more. Because I promise you, this isn't the end. It's just the beginning.